Lisa, the original designing diva. I'm here today because I had mentioned in an earlier video I did on my blue leather Faux Dori that I made from a Franklin Covey classic size planner that I would do a tutorial on how I did that if anybody was interested in following along. And I was going to use this planner here to do the tutorial. And the reason I was going to use this planner, aside from the fact I think it would make a very pretty Faux Dori, was that the back of the way the back of the planner was set up was going to present a problem for me. And I wanted to problem solve it on camera, so it would kind of give you an idea of, how to maneuver around issues that may arise when you're, in the process of repurposing something. So I filmed part one of the video of me cutting the leather from the planner. Unfortunately, for some reason, the quality of the video was so poor that it's unwatchable. There's no way I can post that video for viewing. And obviously I cannot go back and do part one because the leather is already cut from the planner. So I thought about maybe trying to find another planner to use and decided against that. I decided I would stick with this planner and I would just kind of go over what to do to separate the leather from the planner. Let you go ahead and do that, and then we can go on with part two. All you need is a box cutter. That's all you need to start with. I had mentioned in my other video that I had purchased 2 box cutters. This is one of them from the dollar store. So you can go find a cheap box cutter. You don't have to spend a lot of money. And all you needed was a planner that you didn't think you'd ever use again, that you don't mind cutting up. And if you wanted to try Faux Doris or Midoris, you could repurpose it into that. So I'm just going to kind of go over how I separated the leather from this planner. And really, all you need to do is just go down the planner on the top, the bottom, the sides, around the binding, and in the back. And I had mentioned also that I didn't think a craft knife or an X-Acto knife would work very well for this, and after working with this planner, I can tell you that is the case. You need a box cutter. Just be very careful with the box cutter. They're very sharp. You don't want to cut yourself. So, take caution when you're using it, respect it. Don't, go do crazy things with it. Not that anybody would, but, just be careful. And this planner, I wish I had been able to get it on video because this planner gave me a really hard time. This was not, most of the planners I have done, a couple times down the seam, the leather separates beautifully and I'm good to go. Not this one. This one was a pain. I originally cut down the seam like I normally do. I did it several times. I wasn't getting any separation from the leather. So I went inside the seam and I cut several times and I wasn't still getting any separation from the leather. So I finally had to go quite a ways inside the seam and apply a lot of pressure and cut down and around, and I finally did get separation from the leather. So I had the front and I had the spine separated, and I'll show you the problem that I was encountering in the back. This planner had a pocket, which I've done other planners with pockets that weren't a problem because the leather of the cover was not attached to the pocket. On this planner, if I can get the zipper, if I can set it up right so it shows you. On this planner, the leather of the cover was attached all the way across and on both ends to the leather of the pocket. They were one piece. And when you looked inside the planner, inside the pocket, there was this black material. There was no leather on the inside. So I wasn't sure what was going to happen when I finished with this planner. I wasn't sure if I was going to have enough leather without the pocket to make a traveler size notebook. I wasn't sure what was going to happen if and when I tried to separate the pocket. There were a lot of ifs. So what I did originally was I cut around and I cut the whole thing in one piece. So when my leather came apart, I had the pocket attached to the cover. It was attached like this. And I thought for about a second of trying to figure a way to incorporate the pocket into the Faux Dori. I thought it would be a nice little twist on a Faux Dori to have an actual zipper pocket. And then my brain realized that's not going to work because I have to cut the zipper. When I trim down my leather to make the Faux Dori, I'm going to be cutting into the zipper because it's attached, obviously, to the leather of the pocket. So, and I wasn't about to even consider adding a new zipper and all that other stuff. So I came to the conclusion that that was not going to happen. There was no way that was feasible to do. So I separated the pocket from the cover. And then I wondered what to do with this, so I decided, you know what, I'm just going to separate that from the pocket and have a piece of leather. And it's going to be what it's going to be. So I really lucked out in a way, because what I ended up with was 2 pieces of usable leather. I have this piece that I can make a Faux Dori out of, and I have this piece that when folded I could make something comparable to a passport size Midori. So I'm not sure what you're going to be using for a planner, but if you have something with a pocket like I did, you may luck out like I did and end up being able to make two books. So this is what I ended up with. And I decided to go ahead and measure out my cutting lines. And I decided I'm going to put the little piece of leather aside for now. I decided that I wanted my planner to be 8 1/4 high by 11 inches wide. And what you're going to need to do, I'm going to have you cut your planner apart and then mark your cutting lines. I'm going to tell you how to do that, and then come back and we'll go on to part 2. So I'm going to explain to you how to do what I've done here. You need to determine the size of the planner that you want, and one way to do that is, I'm just going to use this planner here. One way to do that, this is a Faux Dori that I have available on my Etsy shop, but one way to do that is to take your inserts and put them inside your leather. And of course this isn't going to fit because it's a notebook inside of a notebook. And then fold your leather over and see how much excess you have after fitting in all your inserts, and that'll give you the size of your planner. You can just go ahead and make it the same size, 8 1/4 by 11 that I'm doing. If you have a smaller piece of leather, you can make a smaller planner. The only thing I'm going to say is the wider your planner, the more inserts you will be able to fit into it. I'm going to make mine 11 because I already have a couple of pretty deep planners that I can fit quite a bit into. So I'm just going to trim a small amount off each side and make it 11 inches. I would recommend not going higher than 8 1/4 inches though. I would stick with the 8 1/4, but you can go as wide as you want. And the way you're going to measure your cutting lines is you're going to measure the width of your leather, and get that measurement, and the height of your leather and get that measurement. And then you're going to measure out how big you want your planner to be. So I want this to be 11 inches, and it really is just shy of 12 inches wide. So from line to line, from this inner line to this line is 11 inches. So in order to get even edges all around your planner, what you want to do is divide between both sides and the top and the bottom the amount you want to cut off. So width-wise, I want to cut off 1 inch. So I'm going to do a 1/2 inch on this side and a 1/2 inch on this side. And height-wise, I need to cut off 1 3/4 inches to get my measurement for the height of this planner. So I'm going to cut 1 inch from the top and 3/4 of an inch from the bottom. And like I said, that way you're getting even edges all the way around your planner. If you cut your excess off of one side, what you're going to end up with is the raw edge that you cut away from your discarded planner, and it doesn't look pretty. It's not going to make for a nice planner. So space it out so that you've got excess on all 4 sides that you can cut away. When you measure, like this side, I want a 1/2 inch. I'm going to start at a point and measure in a 1/2 inch and make a mark. And then I'm going to go down a little farther, measure in a 1/2 inch and make a mark. And I'm going to do that all the way down the side and all the way across the width on both sides and top and bottom. And then when you have your marks, you're going to line up your ruler with the marks and draw a line. And that's your cutting line. 2 things I'm going to recommend. If you're new to doing this, if you've never cut through leather with a box cutter before, and I suppose you could use scissors. I've never tried it. I don't know how it would come out. I can't guarantee anything with scissors. I honestly don't think it would be a good idea. But if you do, what you're going to do, or I recommend you do, is one, either practice on something you can throw away, even if it's, you know, like a piece of if you have a file folder that's fairly thick and you can practice on that, or a piece of vinyl or leather that you don't care about that you can practice cutting, that would be my first recommendation. My second recommendation, if you can't do that, would be to, when you cut, if this is my line, this is my cutting line here, instead of cutting on my actual cutting line, I would recommend you come down a little bit, or up a little bit, or to the side a little bit, whichever line you're cutting. Leave yourself some space between where you're cutting and your actual cutting line, and then cut. And that way, when you cut, if your cut is not even, you can cut it again. And you still will have space to cut more off without going inside your cutting line and losing the leather that you want to keep for your planner. Hopefully that makes sense to you. So those are the 2 things I would recommend, either practicing on something, or when you make your first cut, give yourself some wiggle room and cut less off than your cutting line. So if you need to recut, you can move up to your cutting line and still have the size planner you want. The other thing I would say is cut on the back side of your leather. Don't cut on the front of your leather. Cut on the back side. I have found that if you cut on the front, I have done it, I have made that mistake, and what happens is you get like these little ridges on your leather that's not easy to get rid of. So cut on the back side of your leather, and I think that's it. I think that's basically all the things I have to suggest you do. I will leave you now to remove your leather from your planner. Again, be very careful with the box cutter. Oh, I know what I wanted to show you. If you do decide to go ahead and make your cuts, okay, the way you do that is you just line up your ruler with your line. And I suggest using a metal ruler if you have one. If you don't and you have a plastic ruler that has a metal edge, use the metal edge side to cut on, okay? If you just have a plastic ruler, then use your plastic ruler. You don't need to go out and buy a new ruler. But line up your ruler with your line. Hold it very tight. I can't do it because I'll be off camera, but bring it as close to you as you can. And then you're going to take your box cutter and you're going to make nice, steady, even cuts. And apply even pressure all the way down. You don't need to be an Amazon to do this. You're not going to cut through it the first time anyway. So take your time, make careful, even cuts all the way down, applying even pressure all the way down. And that's how you're going to get a nice, clean cut. Okay? So that's what I want you to do. Go separate your leather from your whatever planner you're going to use, and then measure out, decide what size you want your planner, and measure it out and draw your cutting marks. If you decide you want to go ahead and cut, that's fine. Go ahead. We'll come back with part 2. I may cut some of it before I do the part 2 video, because I want to show you how to finish off the inside with part 2 also. So I may go ahead and cut some and just leave, 1 or 2 cuts left to do on camera. So go ahead and do that, and when you're done, come back and we'll continue on to part 2. So this is Lisa, the original Designing Diva, saying bye-bye for now. I'll see you again in part 2.